A Johnson & Johnson Standards of Leadership Award winner. Our next speaker is the founder and principal consultant of 8 Treasures and Trilogy People Performance Consultancy. She authored her first book in the Being Happy and Successful series in 2012, and in April 2019, she released her 4th book, Effective Asian Leadership, Today and Tomorrow, which attempts to provide insights on what makes a successful leader through the perspectives of over 100 leaders across Asia. Let us all welcome to the stage, Janet Young.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Are you all ready to have a whale of a time?
Yes.
I think you're a bit sleepy. Yeah, I think what Marita shared earlier was really inspiring. Someone who has disabilities is able to write a book. Instead of 90 days, she took only 85 days. Isn't that inspiring? So once you think you can do it, anybody can do it, right? So I'm glad you're all here to share and listen to my journey of how I became an author. I'm actually an accidental author, accidental speaker. So there's nothing that's usually planned. You can plan all you want. Sometimes things just happen, okay? I'm Janet, an author, a speaker, and a consultant. Today, I'd like to share my experience, and before that, I need to tell you a little bit more about myself. So, this is a picture taken of our family in 1982. I see a lot of young audience here. Anybody born after 1982? Can I have a raise of hand? Great, because if not, I feel very old. This is the one and only picture of my family, of the Young family, for my entire life, actually. Do you think we look happy in the picture? No. So sad, right? Now, I'm the one standing right in the middle. I'm the eldest of 4 children, okay? So the only one smiling is my sister standing next to me. Yeah, right? The reason is because I think we appeared pretty successful. We're all pretty well dressed. My father was running a very successful building and engineering business. But quarrels were happening at home every single day, okay? Because my parents could not agree on finances. They could not agree on how things should be managed in the company. Now, I was the eldest, although I was 12 to 13. That didn't look like it, right? Yeah. So, but I was the only one who really understood what was happening at home. So we may appear successful on the inside, but we were really, really not happy on the inside. And I heard some of the speakers talking earlier on about even teenagers now. I think love is pretty important. And at that time, at 12 and 13 years old, I think love was pretty important. So then, in 1986 and 87, financial crisis happened. My father's business crashed. It was the first time in my life I was worried about whether I would have a roof over my head the next day. So we had to work through college. Every time it's school fees time, I'll cross my fingers that my father would actually be able to bring money back, because I'm not sure whether I'll be able to complete my university education, right? So when I graduated, what do you think I was aiming for? What do you think I was aiming for? Money, of course. Success. Because the situation at home deteriorated further, I had to bring money back. So when I joined Johnson & Johnson, that was my second company. So the first company that I joined for about 9 months, an IT solutions company, when the boss told me, I'm sorry, after 9 months, maybe your salary may not come the next month. What do you think I did? I left. So I looked for a stable and good company to work for that worked in my values. So as shown in the middle of the picture, continuously I climbed because I wanted to be successful. So every single year I won awards. I was top sales manager, top sales franchise, as well as a standards of leader. So I was, at that point in time, also gotten married. I was pretty lucky. I got married. So I was successful both at work and happy at home. Then in the year 2000, this little one came. So isn't he cute? Anybody here who's a mother? Great. Yeah. So I was really successful at work, but I was traveling 75% of my time, working from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Guess what happened? My poor son, not my poor son, my poor me. No, my son didn't want me to carry. So I could not manage work. I could not manage home. So I became an emotional freak. So I was crying at home. I was crying in front of my boss. And the last straw came when I cried in front of my client. Imagine a client, I was at the director level talking to a cardiologist and I cried in front of him. So another friend, client who turned friend told me, Janet, what are you doing? Where are your priorities? I took a step back and said, really, where are my priorities? So after 6 months of consideration, I quit my job in Johnson & Johnson in the year 2004 and went in search of happiness. Okay, then the next picture came. I was really wondering whether I was emotional because I had postnatal depression, or was I emotional because I was trying to do too much? Probably both, right? Or it could be because I just shifted into a new home, maybe the feng shui wasn't really that good. Anybody here familiar with feng shui?
Yes.
Yeah, all familiar, yeah? So I'm not sure whether you recognize the people in the picture. So in the year 2004, I decided to take up a course with Lilian Tu in Malaysia because at that time she was popular and she was a Harvard Business graduate. She was also the banker and she was a head of 2 departmental stores. So I was curious, so I went to attend her course. And in the same course, there's Maritas Allen that's next to me. She's also a very popular feng shui person in Philippines. We attended the course together. Now, then the next thing happened was I came from the medical industry selling new technologies to doctors. Then I have to prove with things on new technologies with clinical papers. But she advocated you place an item in a certain sector and you can have love. Do you believe that? Not sure, right? So I was like, are you sure? Does it really work? So I decided to do an experiment. Yeah. So I took up a kiosk in the mall and basically said, I will put items there, put descriptions there. When clients come, I'll explain to them. Then we will do the experiment together. If it works, they will come back to me. If it doesn't work, then it's experiment failed because I didn't know whether feng shui worked at that time. Now, I was pretty lucky. I got pretty popular. I had referrals. I was interviewed on magazines, on dailies, and even till today, I still have a partner with 2 outlets in feng shui. So in the meantime, my colleagues in Johnson & Johnson were very curious. Somebody like Janet went into metaphysical field, which is like, hocus pocus, they wonder what's happening, right? So when they had a reunion in the year 2010, Kalai, who's actually seated right in the middle, actually invited me to speak. I can share basically either on feng shui, I told him, which is about the environment, or I can share about 八字, which is similar to 12 animal horoscopes on personality. So I asked him which one he prefers. So he said, why don't you share about personality? So after my speech on personality, and seated here on the first row, second on the right with the white hair, Ben, who's in the audience right now, said, hey Janet, the Western profiling system and this Asian personality profiling system that you spoke about had so many similarities. Why don't you write a book and compare the 2 systems? And at that point in time, this thought came, me, an author, you got to be kidding. So don't you think it's actually serendipity that this topic picked for me today, 9 years down the road, is exactly what I thought about last time? Yeah. So then I was thinking about how I'm going to write this book. It's not difficult to write Western profiling system, but the ancient art of 八字, there was no software. So there is a little bit of an issue where you are actually looking at how to translate the information. So, but as I was thinking, a ticket came. I was buying books and reading up about personality profiling in the Chinese metaphysics side to attend a software that was launched by Joey Yap, okay, on 八字 profiling system. And I said, hey, now I have a software. I'm able to compare. I should think about writing the book. Then I carry on my research. Then I say, this was the year 2010. Self-publishing was not popular. Okay? So I didn't know what to do. So I started researching on whether I can get my book published. Then I got discouraged. Then there was a newspaper article that my husband actually pointed out and said, hey, this is about self-publishing. Why don't you actually go and attend and maybe you can do self-publication? So I decided to do self-publication. And because I used Joey Yap's system, I wrote to him to ask for permission for my book. And when I met up with his general manager, I was pretty lucky. He said, why don't we publish the book for you? So that's how I got my first book published. Now, earlier on, Suri Jinta actually mentioned, if we have ideas, the flows come. You do not take action, nothing will happen, right? So, therefore, to me, things always happen for a reason. Whether is it a good thing or is it a bad thing, we will always learn from it. Because only when we learn from it, then we can actually share our experience, just like how I'm sharing my experience with you here, right? So then that's where I wrote the other two books in the series about knowing yourself, which is the first book. Some of my clients said, wouldn't it be great to use the system to understand others as well? And then some said, I want to be a business owner. Can I be a business owner? So that's how I wrote my third ebook. So today, in the books stand, you actually have the second book, and the free book comes with it. The usual price is 1,000 peso. For your, as aspiring authors, I'm giving it at 5,000, and you get a free ebook as well, okay? So now, then I went into corporate training, and my client said, Janet, why don't you develop actually an app? Because not everybody wants to give you their details when we're trying to do a training. I said, okay, since I took the sentence, things always happen for a reason, right? So I must just develop and see how it goes. So with that, we developed the Paths app. It's for free for download as well, if you like to know your own personality. And I adapted the entire system because corporates needed something easier. They didn't want all the Chinese letterings. So it became the Asian personality profiling system. Then I created also the Janet Yong profile quadrants. And when I was developing the app, one of the key things about the Asian system is there has been no data collected. So through the app, we were able to collect self-awareness data, and the results have shown that there were 7 statistically significant areas of improvement. So similarly, if I had not listened to my client, then think about it, research, took the steps, then things will not happen. I will not have written the books. I will not be able to share with you what I've gone through. So the next thing that happened, I joined an Asian Professional Speakers Association in Singapore. That's how I got to know Shah and a lot of the speakers here about 1.5 years ago. The Vice President, Frederick Heron, was offering free mentoring service. So I was very excited about my Asian personality profiling system, right? So I said, how can I bring it to a bigger stage? So he said, since your system came from China 2,000 years ago, why don't you actually write a few articles or write a book that it's about Chinese leadership? And I said, pretty good idea. So I went talking to all my connections, and then I spoke to Ben, who's based in Philippines, my partner here, and I asked him, Ben, do you know of anyone who has Chinese heritage and is a successful leader? He looked at me and said, Janet, your system is an Asian personality profiling system. Why are you only interviewing Chinese leaders? I said, okay. So then because of that, I went on to interview 90 experienced leaders, surveyed 25 emerging and potential leaders across 17 countries in Asia, almost 50 industries. I wanted to understand leaders across companies, from MNCs to family-run companies, to SMEs, to conglomerates, even to NGOs. Yeah, and this was from April last year. Okay, then, yeah, I was thinking to myself, thank you very much for clapping. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Now then the challenge came. How am I going to launch the book? Right? So it was targeted to launch in June. I got help from my co-author. I couldn't have done it alone. I couldn't have done it with my husband and my son helping with all the arrangements and everything. So then I got pulled in to do, remember I was doing a reunion in 2010 for my ex-Johnson & Johnson colleagues. This time round, I got pulled in to do another reunion, 20-year reunion, April this year. So the mutter of the reunion said, Janet, great opportunity to launch your book. And I said, yeah, great opportunity. But I must bring forward the writing and the publication by 2 months. And that was already in November 2018. I was like, oh no. But then I said, remember I said, if Mary Tess can do it, every one of us can do it. So long as we have the will. So I managed to publish the book in April this year. Thank you. And through that, I interviewed 7 leaders from Philippines. And when we look at writing a book, we should never always only look at the end result. The journey, the process is very important because guess what? I learned tremendously from the leaders that I interviewed. I'm so honored that 3 of them are seated right at the back. Mr. Benjamin Avancina, his brother, Mr. Manuel Avancina, and Mr. Rigert Fontanilla, right? Yeah. So I am so happy that they are here with me today. So now, then, after I interviewed all the 100 leaders, I needed to find how to go about writing the book. So we developed this Influencers of Leadership framework, which I don't really have a lot of time to go into today. So you can buy the book. It's also 50% discount at 500 peso, and then you get the ebook free. And what we looked at the leader is internally, you need to look at not only the personality, which is intrinsic, you also need to look at values, because values actually shapes your character. And it's through your family, through the circumstances that you grew up with, through the society. So then I actually found a link between being happy and successful and effective Asian leadership. You all must be wondering, what has that link got to do? Are you curious to find out more? Yeah? Okay, here goes. So now, when we look at a leader, a successful leader understands who they are. They understand their values, okay? So remember I talk about in my book, Know Yourself. They know who they are, they know what their values, okay? Then they also take the time to actually understand others. They need to understand the culture of the team members that they go with, especially when they go to a different country. They need to know where they are coming from in order to speak to them and actually work together and build effective teams. So by doing that, then they are usually happy because what they are seeking is the alignment actually of individual, of team, as well as the organization's values. Because there were some leaders that I said, what happens if you join an organization after a period of time, the values no longer align? They quit if they want to stay happy. But in today's world, to be successful, because there are so much changes in the environment, they have to learn to be open-minded and to be continuously learning and to adapt. So that's the link between an individual, knowing yourself, because in the family, I do consultation for families as well, knowing your family members, knowing where they are coming from is equally crucial, okay? Now, so all of you, are thinking about writing your own brand. My message is being happy and successful. What's your message? If you know your message, it's going to be easy to frame the book. The next you need to look at is, what kind of book would you like to write? Would you like to write a fiction, which is a thriller, a mystery, a romance, a spiritual book, like what Sanjita did? Or would you like to write a non-fiction, a how-to book, like what I did with my first 3 books, teaching people about personality profiling, finding themselves, being better in their career and building their competence? Or would you want to do an interview book, which I did for my last book? Or do you have a specific theory that you want to advocate, like setback leadership? That's a thought leadership book. So the next thing you need to look at would be, who's your target audience? And when I wrote my first book, I was never a writer. I was a good consultant. I was a good salesperson. I don't know how to write. I know how to consult. So the art of 八字 was very technical. So when I wrote my first draft and passed it to my husband, he read it and he looked at me, what are you writing? I'm like, So I had to write multiple drafts till he understood what I was writing. Because if your audience don't understand what you write, then you cannot inspire them, right? So nowadays what I do is, some people actually get editors to actually edit their book. I send my books to leaders who are close enough and ask them, what do they think? Or if it's a subject matter expert, I will send to lay people and ask them, do you understand what I am writing? So there are different ways of editing. There's not one way of doing something. The next thing is, when writing your brand, we all go through life journey. We experience different kind of experience. Your experience and mine will be different. Your story and mine will be different. And the key would be, when things happen, be willing to take a chance, okay? But of course, calculated chance. There was a period of time I was just sharing with one of the leaders that I was so eager. I started many businesses, and then I also lost a lot of money till I told my husband, if I tell you I'm going to start one more business, please let me, okay? So because he's the counterpart, he will pull me back. So be willing to take chances, be willing to learn, but do your calculations, because you need to look at pros and cons. So I think a participant, I think one of my VIP guests, I don't know where she is. Yes, I saw her. She actually asked me, should she quit her job, right? So I told her that when we want to create, we need our mind settled. If our mind is not settled, because we quit our job, financial stability is gone. We will not do our creation path easily. I'm lucky. I have my stable business, which is the feng shui side. That's why I can explore other things. So, but as you're working, a lot of you may be working, a lot of you may be studying. It's actually something that you can do. But if you decide that you will do it, you can do it. Especially after I heard what Merit has said, right? Then learn to share so that you can contribute. We can contribute in our own way. All the audiences and a lot of the speakers actually mentioned, even one person who's being able to light their passion, to actually point the way, would be critical. Remember my sentence? Things always happen for a reason. Read with me. Things always happen for a reason. Good with the flow, good or bad, learn from it and share your experience. And that's what authors are supposed to do. So I wish you all a whale of a time. And are you all ready to be authors right now? Great. A louder and more convincing yes? Yes. Great. Thank you. I'm sure you'll have a whale of a time. Thank you very much.